I grew up in Scotland on a farm with my dad, and for a long time it was just a quiet, isolated life surrounded by animals and open land until things slowly started to change. After I turned 6, my dad began developing severe arthritis as he got older, and it got to the point where he couldn't properly take care of the animals anymore. So I had to help out with everything until we eventually had to sell most of them off, feeding them, cleaning, all of it. I didn't really mind though. I was always a bit of a tomboy in some ways. I didn't care about bugs, dirt, mud, or even the dark. And I never really got scared easily. If anything, I was a kid who used to try and scare other people just for fun. One day my dad left me in charge of our land while he went to get his back checked, since it had been getting worse. And I know some people might think he didn't care about me. But before anyone judges him, he always has and always will care about me. He just told me to stay inside, draw something, and do something creative while he was gone. I was brought up speaking English even though we lived in Scotland, and I never really understood why, still don't to be honest, which made it hard for me to properly talk to most of the adults around us. So most of the time I just stayed quiet and pretended I understood what people were saying. And because I had an accent, people usually believed me anyway. I just stayed inside all day drawing pictures and doing puzzles while the rain started to roll in. At first it was normal weather, but then it turned heavy, with thunder shaking everything every time it hit. And even though I didn't usually get scared, I would still jump every time it cracked across the sky. A while after the rain started, I heard one of the cows moving around outside. And since we had 5 cows, 10 pigs, and 3 sheep, I put on my raincoat and went out to check what was going on, only to find the gate and the doors to the shed had been blown open by the wind. So I guided the cow back in and managed to calm the rest down. That's when I noticed one of the cows was smaller than the rest, still very young, only born a few days ago. And it didn't even have a name yet, and instead of staying with the others, like it normally would, it was just huddled alone in the corner, shaking, while the rest of the cows didn't even seem to care about it for some reason. I walked closer to check on it, and when I got near enough, I immediately felt like something was wrong, because normally it would run up to me and act playful. But this time it just stayed completely still, not reacting at all, just sitting there shivering. And when I knelt down and put my hand on the back of its neck to calm it, it slowly turned its head toward me, but didn't blink or move its eyes at all. It just stared at me in a way that didn't feel right. Then suddenly it jerked up, shoved me out of the way, and ran straight out of the shed into the rain. And since the gate was still closed, I assumed it would come back once it realized it couldn't get out. I ran after it, but I couldn't see much because of the storm. So I checked along the fence to see if there was any gap it could have slipped through. And I was just about to give up when I heard something moving in the bush on the other side. So I called out, "Spot?" because that's what I had nicknamed her since she was white with one black spot around her left eye. And I leaned over the fence with my torch trying to see better. After a moment, a small head slowly poked out from the bushes. But when I shined my torch at it, the light didn't seem to reflect properly, like it was just getting swallowed by the dark. And it wasn't Spot. I didn't know what I was looking at. It looked like a black lump of fur with something uneven sticking out of the top, and when I quietly said, "Hello?" the bushes suddenly shook and it dropped out, revealing two thin, bone-like legs about a foot tall, with no arms and no visible face, just standing there in the rain. It growled at me and started running toward me. And only then did I realize it was much closer and much bigger than I thought, almost my size, so I turned and ran straight back to the house, slammed the door shut, and just sat on the sofa crying. My dad came home later that night, and I went straight to bed. And I didn't tell him anything about what happened, because I didn't want to stress him out more. And when I woke up the next morning, I got dressed and went downstairs, where my dad was standing by the front door with rain dripping off his hair and shoulders and a strange look on his face. And when I asked him what was wrong, he just told me it was nothing and to go eat breakfast, that he would tell me later. After breakfast, he went upstairs to rest, and I went outside to feed the animals. But something immediately felt off when I noticed the gate was closed but not properly latched. And as I pushed open the shed doors and dragged the food bucket inside, I heard a strange sound coming from the corner, like grumbling mixed with chewing. And when I looked over, I saw that same black shape hunched over one of the bigger cows, which was now covered in blood, and it didn't notice me until I screamed and dropped everything and ran. It snarled and chased after me, and even when I reached the gate and turned around swinging my torch in defense, it suddenly appeared right in front of me, so close I could feel its breath, its face completely soaked in blood. And I ran straight back to the cottage, screaming for my dad over and over, until he opened the door and it suddenly stopped outside. When my dad saw me, he picked me up and hugged me, then set me down and asked me what was wrong. And I told him everything that had happened, but he just looked quiet for a moment before telling me that one of the older cows had actually died of old age, and that some people were supposed to come pick up the body without me seeing it, so I wouldn't get upset. And when I tried to look for anything like what I had seen in books later on, I couldn't find anything even remotely similar. And to this day, I still wonder if anyone else has ever seen something like that or has any explanation for it.